Have you ever had a green day that just didn't feel good? I'm not talking about a euphoric, reckless day. I mean a clean day. A day where you did what you were supposed to do. You took the right trades. You respected risk. You walked away with a profit. And yet, later that night, you still didn't trust it. You tell yourself, that was nice, but it won't last. Or, I probably just got lucky. Or, tomorrow I'm going to give it all back. Or even worse, I should have made more. If you've ever had trouble trusting your wins, you're not broken. You're not ungrateful. And you're not missing some secret mindset trick. This is a common psychological pattern for traders, and it usually has nothing to do with your strategy. It has to do with what winning does to your nervous system and to your identity. Because for many traders, losing is familiar. Losing fits the internal story you've been living for a long time. It's painful, but it's predictable. Winning, on the other hand, creates a new kind of pressure, the pressure to maintain. And the brain often experiences that as a threat. Here's the strange reality. For a lot of people, success is more psychologically demanding than failure. Failure hurts, but it's consistent with the fear you already carry. Success challenges that fear. It forces you to confront a different possibility, that you might actually be capable of doing this. And that is uncomfortable in its own way. When you don't trust wins, it's rarely because you don't want to win. It's because winning changes the emotional environment you're operating in. Suddenly, you're not fighting to survive. You're fighting to protect something. Before, you were trying to make it work. Now you're trying not to lose what you gained. That subtle shift changes everything. The moment you're up on the day, your brain starts doing math that doesn't show up on the chart. It starts forecasting pain. It starts imagining the give back. It starts scanning for the moment you mess it up. You haven't lost yet, but your body is already preparing for the loss. That's why you can feel tense while you're green. That's why you can feel heavy when you should feel proud. That's why you can be profitable and still feel unsafe. Your nervous system isn't reacting to the current number on the screen. It's reacting to what that number represents. A win represents opportunity, but it also represents vulnerability. Because when you have something, you can lose it. And if your past experience in trading includes giving back profits, blowing a good day, or turning a green week into a red one, your brain learns a simple association. Profit is temporary. So the moment you're profitable, the brain doesn't relax. It tightens. It says, careful, this is where we usually screw it up. This is not irrational. It's a learned protective response. Most traders have conditioned themselves to distrust wins because they've experienced what happens after. They've experienced the emotional shift that comes with success. The looseness, the confidence spike, the subtle arrogance, the urge to trade more, the urge to press, the urge to prove. And then the market humbles them. So the brain starts trying to prevent that future pain by refusing to fully accept the win in the first place. It downplays it. It questions it. It calls it luck. It keeps you emotionally guarded. Because emotionally guarded feels safer than emotionally open. There's also an identity layer here that almost nobody talks about. If you've spent months or years feeling like, I'm not consistent, I'm not disciplined, I always mess it up, then that becomes part of how you see yourself. It becomes a quiet identity, not a label you'd put on a business card, but a story you carry. And when you have a good day, that story gets challenged. For a moment, you are not the struggling trader. You are the competent trader. And that sounds like it should feel good. But for many people, it feels destabilizing. Because identity, even a painful one, creates predictability. If you identify as the person who struggles, then success creates a question. Who am I now? And the brain, again, hates uncertainty. So instead of letting the win reinforce a new identity, it protects the old identity by dismissing the win. It doesn't count. It was just a good market. It was just one day. Tomorrow will tell the truth. That's the mind trying to restore the old story, because the old story is familiar. This is why some traders sabotage after winning. Not because they want to fail, but because they want to return to the emotional environment they know how to operate in. Struggle is familiar. Stability is unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels dangerous. Now, let's talk about the behavior that usually follows this pattern. When you don't trust wins, you often do one of two things. The first is you get overly conservative. You take profits too early. You tighten stops too fast. You reduce size. You stop taking the best setups because you don't want to ruin the day. You start trading as if the main goal is to protect the green number, not to execute well. The second is the opposite. You get restless. You try to press because you want the win to feel real. You take extra trades because you want more proof. You push because you want certainty. Both reactions are driven by the same root discomfort. You don't feel safe with success. So you either shrink away from it or you chase it. Either way, you're no longer neutral. And neutrality is the state where good execution happens. A professional trader isn't someone who feels confident all the time. It's someone who can remain stable across outcomes. They can be green and still execute normally. They can be red and still execute normally. They don't need the P and L to be a source of emotional direction. That's the difference. When a professional wins, they don't treat it as proof that they're invincible. They treat it as a data point. When they lose, they don't treat it as proof that they're broken. They treat it as a data point. They don't fuse their identity with the outcome. Most retail traders do. And that fusion is why wins can feel so scary. Because if your identity rises with wins, it also collapses with losses. The mind knows that, so it refuses to fully rise. It refuses to celebrate. It refuses to trust. It stays guarded to avoid the crash. So how do you break this? You don't break it by forcing yourself to be confident. That's not how the nervous system works. You break it by changing what a win means. Right now, many traders treat winning as a fragile event, a lucky streak, a temporary permission slip. What you want is to treat winning as evidence of process, not evidence of talent, not evidence of destiny. Evidence of process. A win is not something to trust. A process is something to trust. If you followed your plan, that's trustworthy. If you respected risk, that's trustworthy. If you avoided impulsive trades, that's trustworthy. If you stopped at the right time, that's trustworthy. Notice what that does. It stops asking you to trust the result, and it starts training you to trust the behavior that produced the result. That is how self-trust is built. Self-trust is not the belief that you'll always win. It's the belief that you will behave predictably under pressure. When you can predict your behavior, wins become less scary, because you no longer fear the give-back version of you. You know that even if the next trade loses, you won't spiral. You know that even if the market changes, you won't start chasing. You know that even if you feel excited, you won't abandon your rules. That stability is what makes profits feel real. So the practical shift is this. After a winning day, instead of asking, "Can I trust these profits?" ask, "What did I do today that is repeatable?" Maybe it was one thing. Maybe it was two. Maybe it was simply that you didn't overtrade. Maybe it was that you took one clean loss without emotional damage. Maybe it was that you walked away on time. That's the win. The money is just the byproduct. This is also why early wins often feel untrustworthy. Because early on, your process isn't stable yet. You might have been profitable, but you weren't repeatable. So your nervous system is right to feel uncertain. The goal is not to convince yourself that you're stable. The goal is to become stable. And stability comes from repetition of behavior, not repetition of outcomes. Outcomes can vary. Behavior is what you control. Let's make this even more concrete. because this pattern usually shows up in very specific moments. A lot of traders don't distrust wins in general. They distrust wins the moment they try to continue trading while green. You're up, you take another setup, and as soon as price pulls back a little, your body reacts as if you're about to lose the entire day. Your shoulders tighten. You start thinking, don't you dare turn this red. You stare at the P and L number more than the chart. You feel yourself wanting to interfere, not because the setup is invalid, but because the green number feels like something you have to defend. That's the nervous system saying, we have something now, protect it. Or you finish the day green, and later, when the market is closed, your mind can't enjoy it. You're already imagining tomorrow. You're already hearing the voice that says, don't get comfortable. You wake up the next morning, and instead of feeling grounded, you feel pressure. You feel like you need to prove yesterday wasn't luck. That pressure is exactly what causes the give back. It pushes you into trades that aren't there. It makes you trade faster. It makes you override your filters. It makes you chase certainty. So if you want a simple way to weaken this pattern, here's the shift. Stop trying to carry the win into the next session. A good day is not something you carry. It's something you complete. Completion matters psychologically. When you treat a winning day like a fragile object you have to protect tomorrow, you bring anxiety forward in time. You import pressure into the next session. Instead, you want to close the loop. At the end of a winning day, the most powerful question is not, how much did I make? It's what behavior made this day possible. And then you name it in plain language. 1 sentence, 2 sentences max. For example, I only took A+ setups. I stopped after my second trade. I didn't revenge trade after the first loss. I stayed patient during consolidation patterns. I kept my size consistent. I got out when my plan said to get out. That becomes your real proof. Because the mind doesn't trust wins. It trusts evidence. And evidence is behavior. If you do this repeatedly, something shifts. Wins stop feeling like luck because you can point to what you did, not what the market gave you. Now, here's the contrast that matters. A reactive trader needs the win to feel like certainty. A stable trader lets the win be incomplete. They let it be just one data point, and they keep building the record. The reactive trader says, I need to know if I'm good. The stable trader says, I'm building someone who behaves well. Those are completely different identities. And that's why stable traders can have a great day and still show up tomorrow without pressure. They don't need yesterday to prove anything. Yesterday was just training. If you want to become that kind of trader, the practice is not hype. It's not affirmations. It's repetition of a simple internal response. When you notice distrust after a win, you don't argue with it. You label it. You say, my brain is protecting me from giving it back. And then you return to process. Because labeling converts a feeling into an observation. It creates distance. It turns urgency into information. And over time, that distance becomes your edge. So if you've been having wins you can't trust, don't chase bigger wins to make them feel real. Chase repeatable behavior. Let the wins come as a side effect. That's how you build the only kind of confidence that lasts. Confidence in how you behave, not confidence in what happens. And once you have that, you won't need to trust wins. You'll trust yourself. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into trading psychology. See you in the next one.